Welcome to the CXPod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hey, and welcome back to the CXPod, everyone. This is Merete speaking. I am here today with Joanna, as usual. Hi, Joanna. How are you?
Hello, I am well, thank you. And hello to all the listeners.
Yeah.
And who else are we here together with?
We are here together with Bruce.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome. Thank you.
So, fun fact, your name in Norwegian means soda. So when I'm drinking a Pepsi, I'm drinking en Bruce, which is Bruce. Did you know that?
Wow. Well, if I'm going to be a soda, can I choose to be Dr. Brown's cream soda?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so that's the soda that I want to be.
Yeah, then that's decided now. You are now Dr. I don't think we have that in Norway.
No, I don't think we have it.
I don't think you get that here. No. It's like a vanilla cola.
It reminds me of, I think in the UK we had Dr. Pepper and the vanilla sounds like, yeah.
In that genre, sure.
So soda it's just soda, so you can be any flavor you want. And if you want to change one day, you can also do that.
Exactly.
Wow, yeah. I like that power. I can be whoever I want to be.
Exactly.
As long as it's a soda.
Yeah. Stay within the frame of soda. That's great. So I just have to say another thing as well, because I'm noticing the shirt you're wearing that says Humanity at Scale. And this is a little funny because I was just kicking out my nephew from my house as we were just about to record. And we were talking about the podcast, and I told him about who was the guest, and he recognized your name. And he said, we talked about AI, and he wanted to ask you some questions about that, which I will do later.
But you kicked him out.
Yeah, I kicked him out. But he said, can you scale a human though? And he sort of left it hanging, and then they left and we logged on, and here you are with that shirt on. So I'm just going to throw it right at you, Bruce.
Can you scale humans? Well, here's the thing, which
with
is
AI.
Depending on how you actually interpret that question, sure. Like I have a little baby granddaughter and I can jump over her and someone could interpret that as I scaled her. Right? I scaled a human. We got scaling that way. I think what you can do so when I have scaling humanity, there are like two parts to it, right? One is that we can take the good parts of humanity and scale them through the organization, right? That's the scale I'm talking about. Not necessarily scaling an individual human, but taking the humanity pieces of leadership and scaling it large across large. But there's another part to it, because I do think that you also can use technology to scale the good bits, right? Take the good bits of what humans can do with and for each other and scale that. So, and it's a philosophical debate whether that's actually scaling a human or not.
Yeah.
I just know that we are lined up for an absolutely awesome conversation. So I'm going to rewind us back a little bit and welcome you, Bruce Temkin, to the CXPod, because we are truly honoured to have you here today as a guest. And the reason this came about is because we had the pleasure of meeting at the International Customer Experience Awards back in, I believe it was October, where you was honoured with Lifetime Achievement Award, which you truly deserve for the work you've done within customer experience. And to be honest, I think probably all of our listeners know who you are or will have heard your name, but there may be some that don't. I wondered if you could maybe tell us a little bit about who is Bruce Temkin.
So Bruce Temkin is a recent grandfather, a
father. Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel obligated as I am to talk about AI nowadays. I'm even more obligated to talk about my new granddaughter.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got that out of the way. I won't bother you with pictures, but I normally would.
Do. We'll share a picture in the show notes, actually, if you have.
Yeah. So it's I always think of myself, if I want to describe myself where I'm at now, is I think of myself as human experience visionary. Visionary is a weird thing to talk about yourself as, but I always feel like for me, a visionary is not that I'm smart or anything like that. It's just that I always am looking at where things are heading. Right? That's always been my focus, not on where we are today, but where things are heading. And for the last several decades, I've focused on where the world is heading in how organizations treat people. And I started my career as an engineer. I think I'm always an engineer. I always, I'm analytical. I think like an engineer. And I've had to learn a lot of the other bits, right? The human bits. For those of you who see me speaking or read what I write, I've had to learn how to do that. I wasn't, as an engineer, I wasn't a
That's
great
really
presenter
interesting.
or
Yeah.
speaker.
Yeah.
So when I describe myself, who I am is I try to help people and leaders understand change and understand the dynamics of organizations so that they can better treat people. And that means I look at things like design, neuroscience, behavioral economics, organizational dynamics, leadership elements, culture, all those pieces together. I'm just trying to help organizations better serve all of the people that they touch.
It sounds like you're one of us, really.
Yeah.
These are all
We
the
are,
things
we
that
are,
we care
we're a
about.
tight group. Yeah, we're a tight group.
Yeah, and I remember we had Annette France on the pod quite a while back, but I remember talking to her about how we're all sort of so human caring, and interested in humanity and interested in, the human centric, but it contains all of those things that you just mentioned and probably even more things. So it's just, I just love talking to people who are as obsessed about this as we are, because I mean, for once it make good podcasts, but it's also really, really sort of fulfilling and I feel so grateful to be able to do this. So I'm really excited to take on the questions. So one of the things we like to ask our guests is, because, we live in a world where things move fast, technology is, AI is not even on the rise anymore because it's gone so fast. So what is it that's capturing your attention these days in sort of the universe of customer experience and human centricity and all that?
So, I mean, it has to be AI, right? And it's not AI in general, it's the application of AI. So I've been following and sort of helping organizations understand the impact and the dynamics of emerging technology for probably 30 years. I was at Forrester Research for over a decade, helping organizations look at leading edge technology there. The interesting thing about AI is not AI. The interesting thing about AI when it comes to customer experience is, what are the applications of it going to look like?
Mm.
And the applications are all over the place. The applications are in areas of, how are we going to understand more about the people who we touch? How are we going to put that information in a useful form for all the people that need to have insight around it? How are we going to propel good experiences forward? I'll give you an example of things, right? So if you look at like large organizations, I generally through my career have worked with like very large organizations, complex, crazy, big organizations. And they're always trying to do things like, how do we make sure that across all the thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of communications that we may have with customers or employees, that they actually propel our brand and maintain our tone.
Mm.
Right? That's a really difficult thing to
Really
do,
difficult.
right? Across, think about a large global bank and all the people that might touch. But you think about AI, if we can use AI as a filter that everyone's communications go through, that an AI understands the set of tone and brand elements that we as an organization care about, then we can actually do dramatic things in making sure that how we communicate as an organization is consistent, has the right tone. So those
Mm.
are like the little things that are all over the place in terms of where AI can help, I think, really
Absolutely.
propel CX forward.
So I just remember one thing you said in an episode, Joanna. It's quite a while back, and I don't remember which one it was, but I don't think it's too relevant. But you said, you remember we talked about how if everybody starts using AI in the same way, brands are not going to be able to differentiate anymore because they're all going to look the same because AI only knows. But now we've already reached the point where AI can help you differentiate, which, and this is not long ago we had this conversation and we were like, yeah, we still sort of need to differentiate by different factors, and now we're there.
Yeah, I mean, if you I still write a lot, right? I publish a weekly newsletter, and am always writing. I become like, that's my pastime. I write.
Yeah.
And
we love
I
that.
Yeah.
thank you.
We'll make a link in the show notes.
Oh, great. Yeah. Subscribe to my weekly Substack newsletter, Humanity at Scale. Okay. Now I use AI a lot, but I teach it to replicate my tone. If I ever published anything that it came out with on its own, you would see it as simplistic and you would say, Bruce, like, that's not your writing. So
that's not the right flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, at the end of the day, AI is a tool, right? Now that tool can do a whole bunch of things, but the tool is your proponent for the thing that you want to do. So I know the tone, I know what I want to communicate, and I'll tell you something else. So I like I said, I use AI a lot in my writing, and people ask, well, did you write that or did AI write that? And like, I think that's a stupid question. Of course I wrote that. If you ever saw the hundreds of drafts that I might go through and you looked at some of the crap, and can I say that on your podcast?
Yes, you can say whatever you want. That's the fun about this podcast. It's ours. We own it. We do whatever we want with it.
I like that.
Yeah.
So if you ever saw some of the stuff that came out, you'd go, oh, that's horrible. Now, when I use it, I think I get to a really good endpoint that is representative of my tone and my thinking, right? So for me, using it, it's like a research associate or a partner or assistant, but I would never trust it to write on my behalf.
No.
Because that would never be my brand.
Yeah. I mean, I have the need sometimes to simplify things. And it's like you have your car and it takes you from A to B, but you still have to drive it, right? And you can drive a Volkswagen or you can have a Volvo or whatever car you want to drive. So they're all different, but they take you from A to B. But, you decide how to get there and how many detours and how many, lefts and rights you want to make. So
yeah,
it made sense before I said it out loud.
Absolutely,
but I think it's
a very good example.
But it made sense out loud too.
Yeah, it did. Thank you. This happens a lot.
Yeah, I really love this about it's more about the application of how we are using AI. And I definitely see that this is, we're working currently as well on a project, working in a design bureau. How do we use the application of AI, ensuring that humanity and creativity of the people that are using the tools doesn't go lost? That's our number one goal of our project. How do we use the application of AI, ensuring that the humans and the creative prowess that our humans that have gone to school, that have spent hundreds of hours earlier understanding the dynamics, as you say, Bruce, about, for example, the impact of marketing and branding and communication and the emotional, all of this. But I think they work brilliantly together.
Yeah.
It's just working to understand what is the right application.
And I'm not sure, this may be sort of like a derailing, and we do that a lot as well, but that's okay because it's our podcast. But, this is something that's been spinning in my head for a few weeks because I went to it's like a diversity conference here in Norway. My day job is sort of in this building industry-ish. And so we are talking about, this is a Norway-specific challenge, but we're going to be too few people in the coming years because we have so many elderly after the war. It was a boom, and now we're going to have too few people to take care of too many elder people. And we're afraid that AI is going to take our jobs. Really? Like, we need to be able to use the humans that we have for the human stuff. And then AI can help us with so I don't really get the fuss anymore about being scared that AI is going to steal our jobs, because we're going to need AI to be able to take care of everyone.
I agree, and I think you hit on a use case. I forgot who I was talking with. I was on another podcast, and I was talking about uses of AI when it comes to like humanity, and elder care is a great example.
Hmm.
Everyone has older parents, older aunts, older uncles, whatever, grandparents who are going to get old. And in lots of cases, there are more of them than there are younger generation. And even if there's not, you don't want to spend your life watching them, right? Or you can't spend time. AI can fill in that void very easily. You could see an elder care AI agent, right, checking in with an elderly family member, making sure not just checking in, pinging them, having a conversation with them, checking whether verifying whether they took their medication, right? Checking their cognitive skills through the discussion, right? And letting you know if you're a child or if you're the actual caregiver for that person, when you do need to go see them, when you do need to step up and do things. And I think that AI certainly can help, not only with, as you were saying, the jobs that we don't have enough people for, but also for the caring that we don't have the capacity for as well.
Yeah, and also all the humans and people, we were talking especially about the people sort of ending up outside of having a job because of due to, I don't know, mental health or disabilities or whatever, right? But when you can use AI to help someone get through an exam, maybe they are dyslexic, so they can't write or read too good. But if they are able to do their exams verbally, they can prove that they have the skills needed to be maybe not a surgeon, but still something useful, so we can get a use of more people by utilizing AI and enabling people with AI. So I think this is so interesting.
It's so interesting, but I'm going to take us towards our next question.
I'm
And
sure
our
it's going to be
next
interesting too.
question, our next question, I want to dive into customer insights, because I think this is also relevant probably to our application of AI. But how do we ensure that customer insights that we are getting that they're operationalizable to make customer improvements?
Yeah, so I this has been an area that I've pushed for everyone in the field to do a better job of for many, many years, right? I think we sort of focus so much on the data funnel and not enough on the insight funnel. So if you think about data funnel, where are we going to ask questions? Where are we going to get more data about customers? Where are we going to and then we say, how are we going to analyze it, right? That to me is the front part of it. The back part of it to me is the more interesting part, which is, what are you going to do with it? Who's going to do something with it? And how are they going to do something with it? And so I think now we'll get back to AI, because I think AI can play a role in it, but it's the same formula that I've been trying to get across for a while, which is stop thinking of the ingestion of data, start more thinking about the application of it. And by that, I mean, all the people in the field have great customer experience skills. What are customer experience skills? The ability to better understand people and design experiences that better fit their needs, right? Let's turn those capabilities on to the people in our organization that we think should be and can be using customer insights,
Yes.
right? How would they use it? In what ways would they use it? For what decisions might they use it? And what time frame would they use it? How often do those decisions get made? Where do they get made? What systems do they use to make it? Let's
Yeah.
do that. And
Yeah.
then let's think about, how do we feed insights into that model, the model of their working operational needs, as opposed to what we sort of do is, let's pull in data, let's do our own analysis of it, which, by the way, when I see what lots of people do, may or may not have any application to the people who you really want to use
Yes.
the data. It's our analysis of the
100%.
data. And then we push it at them and we go,
Mm.
here's a bunch of stuff. Here's a bunch of stuff. It may have nothing to do with the way you operate. It may have
Just
nothing
go
to do with the
do
decision you
something.
make. Go
Yeah.
do something with it. And then we get frustrated when they don't. Because they
Yeah.
see it, and what do they see? They see someone pushing a bunch of stuff at them that they have no idea how to use it. It doesn't fit their model of what their job is. And then we got this disconnect, right?
Yeah.
One side is saying, you're not using the insights. And the other side is saying, you're not giving me anything useful.
Yeah.
It's really not very, what should I say, human-centric, is it, towards those people we're pushing the data at? Because we're basically, and I've done this, I've pushed data, and I've realized
we all have.
what
We all
I'm
have.
doing is that I'm just making that person feel bad.
Yes.
On so many levels. Bad because they've got a bad score for going into their department. They should have probably done something else. Bad because they're scared, or not scared, but yeah, probably scared for their role, but also unsure, and more anxiety. What should I do with this? Where do I start? So I think exactly what you're saying there, Bruce, is that we need to start at the other end.
Yeah. And I think
I love this. Yeah.
I even think, a lot of bad customer experiences have been created because of the wrongful use of good customer insights, or, good intentions gone wrong. So, I'm thinking, and we talked about this in a previous episode with Anna-Maja from Finland, about how we need to get beyond the surveys. Like, all the data is there now, so we need to utilize it. And then we're back to AI, right? We need to utilize all the data that we have from, listening, or just, all the data we have in our system from every phone call or email or, conversation that we have with the customers. It's available now for us to use. We don't really have to go around asking them anymore on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? It's just, I think that as much as I have been a really big fan of NPS, I think, the NPS days are gone. I'm allowed to say that. Am I, Joanna? I am, right?
I don't know. Are you sponsored? But I'm interviewing Fred Reichheld next week, so
are you really?
We'll see how that goes.
Can you ask him from us? Maybe he can come to the podcast and explain this to us, because I believe in the methodology behind it, and I've read his book, and I've been working with NPS for so long. So it's not really the question and the methodology I'm questioning. It's just, do you really have to ask the question? Can we find the answer through different methods? I don't know.
Yeah, so while we're on that, why don't we talk about that for a little bit? Because I think that there's a lot of things to learn from NPS, right? To begin with, it's an inferior methodology, or research methodology in the initial stage than the customer satisfaction was. Like an 11-point scale. 11-point scale is a very ineffective scale. It doesn't render well, right? In many of the situations, you ever seen it on like a phone, right? It doesn't, but it wasn't built for that. But it certainly doesn't render well there. People don't make a cognitive difference between a single digit on an 11-point scale, yet we put so much emphasis on the difference between a 7 and an 8 and a 5 and a 6, right? But if you think about it, the person answering does not put that much, cognitive difference. So lots of things wrong with it. But the reason why it was so successful, and while I say there are real big flaws in it, it should be rewarded for being one of the things that has definitely propelled the customer experience movement forward. The reason it did is because of a few things. First of all, it's packaged in a way that it's easy to understand. And all of your listeners should get that at the end of the day, the idea that wins is not the best idea. It's the idea that's packaged in a way that is easier for people to understand and adopt. So stop fighting a fight for a better, smarter option. Spend your time communicating and making whatever options you have easier to understand, because Net Promoter was not a better option than satisfaction. So, and the other thing to note is that it was good enough, right? I think that's the lesson, which is that people would ask me, I probably had 1 billion, and that's probably not even exaggerated, 1 billion discussions on metrics over the years. And people would ask, well, is this we're thinking about this metric, we're thinking about that metric. And I would tell them, pretty much all of those metrics are directionally okay, right? You have bigger problems in your organization to work on. So if you have something that's directionally okay, just get moving with it.
Go with it.
Right? you're probably going to spot the same big problems and big issues, right? You're going to come up with the big rocks. And then down the road, when you start getting even better and better and you want to fine tune it, let's talk about some more sort of targeted measurements and targeted insights. But from where you are, you could throw out almost any metric. If you put a decent program behind it, you're going to work on mostly the right things.
And I just have to say, as much as I see you eager to say something too, Joanna, what I love about the MPS is as well, the loops, the 3 loops that's being introduced together with sort of the methodology. You have the strategic, basically you have the single improvement loop. Well, this or unhappy customer, you call them back, you fix the problem, and that's it. And then it's the operational loop where you try to be proactive about it to avoid the thing that happened from happening again. And then it's the strategic loop where you actually eliminate the problem by choosing a different direction. So, this isn't going to be a problem anymore at all. And I think, implementing that way of working with the insights after, having fetched the data and then turning it into insights by, putting it into a data lake and with different kinds of sources of other data. And then you understand, the big picture, and then you can use this insight to operationalize improvements. That's what I like about the MPS, because that's what it really taught me when I started working with it. It's not just the scale and the question, but it's the whole way of using it to improve.
And that didn't exist when they first started talking about Net Promoter Score, right? The whole idea of the multiple loops and the multiple systems. And that grew out of, they started to try and use NPS in a practical setting and learned that you had to build a program around it, right? Initially, it was, the ultimate question, as if you could ask the NPS question and that was miraculously going to help. So Bain, I think, has done, and I'll give a shout out to Bain, has done a really good job of evolving the model around NPS. So the system itself is, like you talked about with the multiple loops, is in fact a powerful system. Now, I will tell you, those 3 loops work with any metric you use.
Exactly.
Right? You could put those loops around almost any insight and measurement that you have. So it's not NPS specific, it's the system that is important.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah.
I just wanted to say that by the time that this comes out, Bruce, your episode as well, together with I'm going to say his name wrong.
Fred Reichheld? Reichheld, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Reichheld is, I think, close.
Yeah, will also have came out. So I think that we should also do a shout out for the fact that you also have a new podcast that's coming out now that we should advise our listeners to listen into. What's the name of the podcast?
Okay, so I'm going to surprise you that it's called Humanity at Scale, but it has another part to it. It's Humanity at Scale, redefining leadership. And what we're going to do is really explore how we can empower and inspire leaders to create human-centric organizations. So I have a bunch of leaders, thought leaders, people who've created methodologies like Fred. Should be fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm having fun with mine, but I don't think I'm having as fun with mine as you guys are. So I'm learning I need to have a little bit more excitement on mine like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, having a guest with a name that matches soda is, that was pure luck for us. But yeah, we do have, this is our hobby, right? This started off as a hobby and then we just sort of went with it. We've been doing this for, I think it's the 3rd or 4th year now. So
now you need to look for someone. What's the word for potato chips? And you got to go find someone with that name.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one. But there are some names that, you should get a guest from Norway called Odd, because that's odd, right?
Yeah. Odd.
Yeah. And we have quite a few names they are normal in Norwegian, but when you move them to the US or UK or wherever they speak English, they become really, really weird. I did really, really short. This is a rabbit hole. My friend's dad was on a business trip to the US once, and they were called on the airport because they were getting late to the gate. And the speaker didn't know how to pronounce these Norwegian names. So he said, "Can Mr. Ass, Mr. Sore Ass, and Mr. Running please come to gate 18? These are perfectly normal names in Norwegian, but it's just when you pronounce them in English. There you go.
It sounds like one of those jokes they have when the kids in school write their wrong names so they can hear the teacher pronounce them.
Yeah. Yes, but it's actually a true story. So yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
We'll make
it's a
sure to
very
find
good one.
someone with those names for you, and then you can have as much
Thank
fun
you.
as we do. Yeah. All right, Joanna, you want to move us ahead before I
Okay.
dive into another rabbit hole here?
Yeah, next question. What do you believe the next major evolution will be? So we've talked about what's capturing your attention, but where are we going? This is a great question for a visionaire.
Yeah. So I think that I believe that there's going to be a renaissance in human connection. That if you look at, and part of the humanity at scale movement that I wanted to create came about because I saw that we we as a human race are becoming much more fractured in our discussions with each other, right? You can't tell from this podcast because we're getting along, but there are way too many people who are not interacting in the way that we all feel that we should. So one of the things I could do, I could stand up in front of an organization, a group, and say, "How many of you think that we as human beings need to do a better job of interacting with each other?" And you'll get everyone who will raise their hand, right? So I think we're going to hit a point where we are going to decide that we want to be better, that humanity wants to be better. We want to be better at connecting with others. And certainly in the US, the political conversation is horrible, right? And we've gotten so polarized. So I think I'm an optimist when it comes to that. And I believe that one of the things that we're going to seek out better interactions with each other. We're going to look for more human contact, and we're gonna have more and more of people finding the commonality they have with each other. And by the way, a little something about when I came up with humanity at scale, it was one of the things that was input to that is I had done probably in the last few years gone to, I don't know, 30 or more countries around the world for work, right? I was working at Qualtrics, and I went, had events all around the world, and I was traveling a lot. And the thing that I noticed was that no matter where I went, and these are way different parts of the world, from Kuala Lumpur to Canada to Germany, wherever, it was all that all the people I met, you know, we're pretty far away now,
Mm-hmm.
have so many more similarities
Yeah.
than they have differences, right? And we're now at a point in the world's history where we seem to be spending an exorbitant amount of our time focusing on our differences, which end up being a much smaller portion of who we are, right? So I believe that we can resume going back to finding all of that great commonality that we have.
Yeah.
So that is both my vision and my hope. So my vision is blurred by my optimistic hope.
I hope you're right. From my times of traveling, I realized it's similar to what you realized, right? It's people mostly want the same. They want to be happy. They want to eat good food, listen to great music, be with friends, feel some kind of love, either it's for a family member or, someone special, or your children, or your family, or, right, or the animals, or it's people basically were driven by the same things, but we forget that when we start pointing out each other's differences.
Yeah, no, and I'll give you an example. I'll hit a little bit home. So we're really going on the political front here, and we're going down a rabbit hole, but I'll give it to you anyway. So sometimes when I really want to make the point, I'll go after, there's a big divide in the world on the fight in the Middle East. Who thinks Israel is right? Who thinks the Palestinian and Hamas area is right? And I'm not gonna pick sides at all. I'm not gonna take a political stand here. But what I'll sometimes do is get audiences to think about who they support and then put up a picture of a mother and her baby and a mother and her baby, and have people think about whichever position you're on, you're saying that someone's life is more important than another's. And without telling you which one is the Israeli and which one is the Palestinian, which one of those lives do you think is more important than the other? Because I try to get to the point is we when we think in the abstract, it's easy to think about all of those differences. But when you think about the individuals, the human beings, the actual people, that's where you get the learning that, my gosh, we are way more alike than we are different.
Yeah, we are the same, right? So
yeah. I feel very touched. I'm feeling quite emotional now
yeah, I can
because
see that.
I'm so 100% behind that. I hope I'm also forever optimistic, and I truly, truly hope that we can find back to more of this human connection. And the whole reason that I went into customer experience was because I heard a man on stage, and I can't remember his name now. And he has written a book called 1 Billion Happy. Goodvat. I think he is earlier. He was one of the first who worked with artificial intelligence at Microsoft or Google. And an absolutely amazing man. And he talked very much about breaking down the moments of time. And it just got me reflecting about the fact that, we make a difference every single second, and we make a difference for ourselves, and we make a difference for the other person or the people we meet. So, and it's this interaction, and we always have a choice.
Yeah.
We always have a choice for how we are going to attend or be in that interaction moment. And it was his soul talk about humanity and making other people happy that opened the door for me thinking, I want to do this. How can I do this? And customer experience was the career that sort of, this would be the great way to work with this.
And now you're doing it. And I see, one thing is the podcast, but what you do out there as well. And, the ICXA, the CX Awards, you were nominated for, being a star, and it's just so, you're doing it, which is so cool as well. So we're gonna have to round up soon, but I have a twist on the last question that we normally ask our guests, because normally we ask what's the achievement from a customer or employee or even human experience sort of perspective that's made you the most proud. So you can answer that if you want, but what I actually want to ask is, seeing yourself, in the future, what is it that you will have achieved then that you may not have achieved already, that's going to make you the most proud, with this as the context?
Yeah, so I think I can answer them both somewhat together. So what has always made me the most proud in the field is when someone comes up to me who I've never met. I happen to be in an event or something, and they come up to me and they thank me for the career that they have. Right? They say that I either I read something you did or saw something you did and got into the field, or I based my career and my built my program around the stuff that you've wrote, and it's been like that. Because for me, I've always been in the business of, and it's sort of this at scale thing of publishing and putting information out. So I always believe and hope, right, that there's an audience out there that's consuming and doing stuff with it. So it's always wonderful when I hear from people who I've been able to help in the ways that I have meant to and tried to over the years. So having said that, the thing about that I hope to achieve is I am hopeful that there will be a large community, global community of leaders who change the way that they lead to become a much more human-centric leader. And I would say it doesn't have to be because, like, I want the output. If they do that and it has nothing to do with what I've done, that's equally good, right? I want them to get there, but I'm hopeful that I can help propel that. So my vision, and I'll tell you what I'm looking for over maybe the end of this year to next year, is to create some training and certification. And for all of you who know me, like I'm past the point. I'm not doing any of this for money. right? Like, this is a pure passion of mine, but that I can get the understanding of being a human-centric leader crystallized enough and desired enough that people will want to get certified. Because if I can start getting people certified, like we did with customer experience, I create the first customer experience certification, right? If I can get people, leaders, to be proud of being certified as human-centric leaders, and put that with their name and stuff, that'll incent other people. So I guess what I'll be proud of is I see a bunch of people who are proud of being certified as human-centric leaders.
Wow. And I think, and there's a time for everything, and we don't normally brag a lot, Joanna, we don't at the podcast, but I do want to say this as in my humble brag, because we're definitely not doing this for them. I mean, we've had a sponsor for the latest seasons, but that's pure luck and basically to help us reach more people. But this is our hobby and this is our passion. And I feel the same. We're not nearly as big as you are, Bruce, but we're doing this because we really, really want to help those people sitting out there in the corner of an organization being given a too little mandate to do, a too big of a responsibility to change the customer focus in an organization. And they're struggling and they're feeling alone. And we want to provide that network and that support and those conversations so that people out there who work with this know that, it is possible to actually do customer experience. Either it's a program or, changing an organization entirely. So that's what we're trying to do here. I just wanted to have that said because it's,
You deserve to be said. And I think it's great what you're doing and giving I think there are a bunch of people, like you said, who are either alone or wondering if there are other people who are seeing the same things. And I will tell you that for all of you who are trying to make a difference, being a change agent isn't about succeeding all the time. You fail most of the time, right? That's what being a change agent is. But you have to appreciate the moments where you do make a change, because very few people in organizations really make a meaningful change. And I believe that probably the people who are listening into your podcast are the people who are going to make meaningful change. So don't expect it all the time, and appreciate and we just talked about moments, appreciate the moments where you can change how one person does one thing differently. That's all it takes, right? I want to change the world, but not by changing the world, by changing what a few people do and have it mushroom. And I think for your listeners, they don't have to get it right all the time. They don't have to get everyone to listen to them. They just have to get a few people to start doing something a little bit different, and it'll mushroom. And that's how you create lasting dynamic change.
Amazing. I think what fantastic final words. And before I say final words, Bruce, I think they're also I think it's such a fantastic challenge that you're taking, or I say challenge, working with leaders. Because if there's anything that I think we hear over and over again is that we need to communicate this more to the leadership. So having the focus on the wider picture, human-centric leadership, that is also a gift to our home, to all the work we do. So thank you for taking on that mission.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
And that will be the last famous words from you, Joanna, there. Also, we will make sure to leave a link for your podcast in the show notes. We will leave a link to your LinkedIn profile and newsletter also. And if anybody wants to follow Bruce, you find him on LinkedIn, at least I know, and probably in different channels as well. This is it for today. You've been listening to the CXPod. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the CXPod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.